When you think of the British royal family, what comes to mind? Grace, tradition, refinement, a picture-perfect image that's been carefully curated over centuries. But beneath the glimmering tiaras, the polished appearances, and the stiff royal protocols, there's a much darker, more tumultuous story. And at the very heart of this storm is none other than Queen Camilla, a figure who, despite her efforts to wear the crown with dignity, has always been entangled in a web of scandal, betrayal, and controversy. Camilla's rise to the throne hasn't been a fairy tale. Far from it. If anything, it's been a constant battle to shake off the accusations and allegations that have followed her for decades. And the most shocking part: she hasn't fully succeeded. Even now, in her role as the consort of King Charles, the whispers of her past continue to haunt her. The public's image of Camilla is forever tied to her affair with Charles, an affair that not only ripped apart a marriage, but changed the course of history for the royal family. For many, Camilla is still the woman who tore a beloved princess's world apart, and that stain, no matter how hard she tries to erase it, may never fade. In this article, we're going to dig deeper into the shocking facts that have been hidden for far too long, exposing truths about Camilla's past that the royal family would prefer to remain buried. We're talking about the scandalous affair, the public humiliation, the moments of pure betrayal, and the royal secrets that continue to keep her in the public eye, no matter how much she tries to make her mark as queen. Hold tight, because what you're about to read will make you question everything you thought you knew about Camilla and the British monarchy. Prepare for 18 shocking facts about the woman who may forever be known as the most divisive figure in royal history. When Diana Spencer first married Prince Charles, the world watched in awe. Their wedding was a fairy tale come true, a beautiful, young princess marrying the heir to the throne. But behind the fairytale facade was a much darker reality. For years, Diana struggled in a marriage where she felt ignored, unloved, and, most painfully, betrayed. The affair between Charles and Camilla had been going on long before Diana even entered the picture. While Diana was at home, trying to live up to the impossible expectations of royal life, Charles and Camilla were living in their own world, completely disregarding the woman who was supposed to be their beloved queen. The affair had been a secret for years, until it was exposed to the public in a scandal that rocked the monarchy to its very core. Diana had always known, but the public didn't. When the truth finally emerged, it was nothing short of explosive. Camilla wasn't just an affair partner, she was a symbol of everything that was wrong with Charles's marriage to Diana. The public's outrage was immediate and fierce, as they realized that the fairy tale they had been sold had been a lie from the very beginning. Diana's pain was palpable, and in many ways, it was the people's pain too. The affair wasn't just about infidelity, it was a violation of trust, an utter betrayal that shattered the very foundation of Diana's life and the world's perception of the monarchy. The public loved Diana for her warmth, her grace, her openness, and to see her torn apart by the very man who was supposed to love her was a wound that would never fully heal. When Diana sat down for her infamous 1995 interview with Martin Bashir, she laid bare the truth of her broken marriage. And in a moment of raw emotion, she uttered words that would forever haunt the British royal family. There were 3 of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded. These words, simple yet devastating, revealed the depth of Diana's pain. She had been living in a marriage where she was emotionally abandoned, overshadowed by a woman who had no place in the royal family. Diana's confession didn't just expose the affair, it revealed the emotional toll it had taken on her. It was no longer just about Charles's betrayal. It was about the suffocating loneliness Diana had felt in a marriage that was anything but loving. The world watched as Diana's heartache became public knowledge, and with it, the public's sympathy for her grew tenfold. Camilla, meanwhile, was cast in an entirely different light, not as a mistress, but as the woman who had destroyed a beloved princess's life. Diana's admission of the crowded marriage was more than just a moment of vulnerability. It was a direct challenge to the monarchy's carefully crafted image. How could the royal family stand for loyalty, tradition, and love, when one of its most prominent members had been living a lie for so many years? Diana's words became a rallying cry for millions who saw her not as a princess, but as a woman who had been wronged by the very system she was supposed to serve. In 1993, one of the most embarrassing moments for the royal family occurred when an intimate phone call between Charles and Camilla was leaked to the press. The conversation, which was meant to be private, revealed not just the closeness between the two, but their incredibly crude and inappropriate banter. Among the most shocking parts of the conversation was Charles's remark about wanting to be reincarnated as Camila'S tampon. Yes, you read that right. The statement, made with no regard for propriety, was vulgar and deeply inappropriate. But the real scandal wasn't just the crudeness. It was the utter lack of respect for the monarchy's image of refinement and dignity. The royal family, which had long prided itself on its solemn, dignified persona, was now caught in a scandal that seemed to be the antithesis of everything they represented. The media coverage that followed was nothing short of a frenzy. Charles and Camilla had not just been caught in an affair, they had been caught in a conversation that made even their most ardent supporters cringe. The entire royal family's image was at risk, and it would take years for them to regain even a fraction of the public's trust. For many, this was the breaking point. The monarchy was no longer just a symbol of tradition, it was a place where the most intimate, private moments were exposed for the world to see, and the royal family members involved were not above scandalous behavior. The tampon call was a stark reminder that no one was safe from the weight of royal expectations, and that even the royal family's darkest secrets would eventually come to light. Before she became involved with Prince Charles, Camilla was married to Andrew Parker Bowles, a man who was not only a close friend of Charles's, but also a key figure in royal circles. This wasn't just a romantic affair. It was a deep personal betrayal of one of Charles's most trusted friends. The fact that Camilla and Charles had an affair while she was still married to Andrew Parker Bowles only added fuel to the fire. It wasn't just about love or passion, it was about breaking sacred trust. Camilla's relationship with Charles was not just an affair between two people, it was a violation of royal trust, a betrayal that went beyond the personal and into the political. For many, Camilla wasn't just the other woman, she was the woman who had knowingly torn apart a marriage, who had alienated a friend, and who had caused irreparable damage to the royal family. And yet, despite all of this, she was allowed to walk into the royal fold and take her place beside the Queen. How could that be possible? Camilla's life before becoming the wife of Prince Charles was filled with parties, scandalous behavior, and a carefree attitude that seemed to be the polar opposite of the royal family's staid traditions. She was never the quiet, reserved figure the royal family would later try to present her as. In fact, Camilla's reputation as a rebel, someone who lived by her own rules and flouted royal expectations, became a key part of her identity. For years, she lived a life that was in stark contrast to the role she would one day assume as queen consort. She wasn't just a royal by marriage, she was a force of nature, someone who made her own path in a world that was meant to follow strict rules. But the world would eventually catch up with her. As Camilla took on the role of the future queen, her past became something she couldn't hide, no matter how much she tried. And no matter how many tiaras she wore or royal engagements she attended, she was always going to be the woman who had lived a life that was far from the model of royal respectability.